Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pacific Championship Series where we are starting the playoffs where it actually counts. In the lower bracket with both Frank Esports and Meta Falcon team facing elimination today. I'm going to be your host and play-by-play for the day, Clement Chu, and with me is the ever so handsome Frank Nightstar, no relation to the actual Frank Esports. Before we go deeper into the matchup though, a big shout out to our sponsors in CTBZ Bank and Caliber for making this all possible. And of course to our organizers at Riot Games, Carry Live Co, and Garena. So Frank, we've just seen a Meta Falcon team take CFO earlier in the week. I think we all expected CFO to move through, but can you give me an impression on how Meta Falcon team did in this playoff preparation?
It felt like to me they didn't fully utilize Taco's very diverse champion pool yesterday. So I hope that they are able to utilize it today. But at the very least, like when he did all right in the mid lane, but 665, certainly if you look at how the drafts went yesterday, the Graves priority, definitely a little bit puzzling.
So perhaps they were holding on to some of those cards. They did take a 3-0 defeat to CFO yesterday, and that is why we are now broadcasting on M3, Frank versus Meta Falcon team. This will be a best of 5, unlike our 2021 year, and whoever drops out here is just done for playoffs. So this is a must-win match for both of these teams.
Absolutely. So we are, of course, in the elimination rounds, which is always a lot of fun because this is where if you have any hidden strats, it's time to bring those out. And it also seems a little bit surprising to see Frank Esports just start out in the lower bracket, right? Because I think a lot of us expected Frank Esports to be able to finish out with the 6th seed after getting the upset against DCG. But I mean, this is kind of the MO of Frank Esports this entire split. They exceed expectations.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of us will agree that Frank Esports overall talent-wise seems to be the stronger team. But unfortunately for them, there just has been a lot of games where they didn't close out or they actually failed from the start, like the head-to-head matchup they had versus Meta Falcon team where Kurt was sent packing early against Taco. Meta Falcon team, this is their full roster. They have been running Renhao this entire time. And Taco is kind of the man that we were talking about. It seems to be the key in this matchup if you look at the head-to-head.
Yeah, I mean, the man has such a insane top lane pool. And while Kurt has shown a little bit of diversity in his own pool as well, the quality of lane phase has certainly been a very, very glaring point up in that top side, at least for Frank Esports. And it also sort of reflects in the fact that they just put a lot of Hollow's time into that bottom lane just to get M ahead and get him snowballing. So I expect picks like the Xayah, like the Philios, these champions that can really dominate the game early on to be the main focus from Frank Esports.
All right, we'll see if Frank goes into that draft. But first, Kurt in the top lane, Holo jungle, Pretender mid, Eminem and K2, the old bottom lane. This is our Hong Kong representative.
Yes.
All 5 of them playing in the same place here. And I do want to go over some of your points there. You said that they might be looking for more of an early game strategy, looking to shore up some of their bases. But wouldn't you say overall that they are very much kind of a late game team fighting team?
Yeah, for the most part, they draft a lot of scaling from the side of Frank Esports. It's really, when it comes to the early game, you're super focused around Hollow, Eminem, and K2 are actually the big veterans on the squad. But when it comes to drafts, it's very much focused around trying to scale up here.
All right, we'll see how that scaling does go out. Checking in with their champions killed per minute, definitely very low on the table. We don't expect to see massive amounts of that action early from Frank. But talking about their late game carries, both of these guys, the main damage dealers of their teams, Eminem with 30% and Whale here with 27.3. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, Eminem, again, The focus should be more towards the Zaya and the Philios. And for Whale, I'd like to see. We already know he wants to get the Jinx into his hands, but I'd like to see more MF. He picked it once yesterday, and to be fair, it looked pretty solid. And I think it just fits what stylistically MFT want to do, which is a lot of these mid-game focused team fighting preparations, and MF probably the queen of that.
We did see MFT actually have a pretty good game 3 versus CFO. They had strong team fighting mid games. We saw the engage coming in from the Ornn, the Wombo combo potential. They did drop it in the very end, but I think that was their sort of best comp. If you look at overall what they've been drafting, a lot of Gallios, a lot of Camille's, and just in general, a lot of kind of catch, and then everyone tries to funnel into the same position type composition. Now, we have a little bit of time before we go into the bad picks, and I do want to get your predictions before we go in here. What do you think the game score is going to be for this series?
I'd love to predict FAK Esports 3-0, but based on their consistency issues, I do have FAK Esports eventually coming out, but in a 5-game series.
We'll see if they can take it all the way here. The head-to-head in the regular season has been 1-1. Zaya, like you mentioned, for M&M taken off the board immediately. Tryndamere to follow, presumably from Kurt. And this is the interesting one. The Graves first pick has been a priority for MFT in their previous series, though they didn't find any success on it just yet. FAK Esports are still going to take it away.
Yeah, and I think the Graves ban somewhat makes sense because for the side of FAK Esports, like, they are a team that don't necessarily focus on invading and really forcing the issue against the other team's jungler, so it can offer up these pockets of windows to allow 665 to just kind of farm up. But here we actually see more jungle priority for the side of MFT. They go ahead, lock in the Viego. Yes, Hollow has played a little bit of it himself, or actually a decent chunk of it, but it does show that for MFT, the key for them in these drafts is get 665 what he wants.
I don't think I've seen a Viego first pick this entire season in the PCS. It definitely shows your hand a little bit here, and with so many other picks with higher priority, like the Jinx, like the Ahri, very interesting to see that being locked in here by 665. We'll see how he goes with that one. Frank, on the other hand, does seem to be going for more of an early game strat here, with the Lee Sin already in for Holo and Ahri being locked in for Pretender.
This is a champion that Pretender is pretty comfortable on, also offers a lot of mid-game potential, right? Because you have so much deletion power with the combination of Lee Sin and Ahri, and the ability to kite around fights for Pretender is certainly going to be really key as well. As they don't exactly execute the cleanest of team fighting, so when you do have a little bit more mobility in your champion kits, that can help out a lot.
We have a Vex coming in for Wen, and looking at the champion pools, he's only played this one once. A lot of reset potential, but I like this from MFT so far. It seems like playing to their strengths, just great mid-game, tons of engage, good resets going into this one. I feel like they're playing a lot closer to home base than FAK Esports are.
So far, it is looking good for the side of MFT, because if you lock in this Leona, there's a lot of team fight lockdown and damage potential coming out so far. And for FAK Esports, they go ahead, lock themselves in the Philios. Not too surprising here, but what is a pick that has been left off the table so far has been the Jinx. No priority coming in from either side, and I fully expect FAK Esports to ban it away in the second ban phase.
Has been Whale's most picked so far, and if you look at the reset potential, Jinx definitely seems to be just the champion that fits the picture the most. But they go for the Ziggs first, which is pretty interesting. We do have to mention Whale also just plays a lot of different champions. He also plays the Tristana, which is another reset piece, so could be coming up there. On the other side, MFT, they will be banning some supports away from K2. K2 also very interesting because he plays a ton of supports with them. The Yumi, also the Lulu. He does play a lot of those counter engage options as well.
Yeah, and I would expect them to go ahead and maybe ban away something like the Tom Kent or Braum here because of how focused MFT are on the dive power. And Frank Esports, they also kind of, no, or they go ahead, target a second ban towards Whale. They take the MF off the table, which I think plays very well into Frank Esports' composition. Not to mention, you already have such good lockdown power already on the side of MFT. If you get an MF into that composition, it will absolutely devastate Frank Esports time and time again with that MF ult.
Yeah, the mid-game power spike that you were talking about definitely provided by that Misfortune. I think you're a prophet. Just calling that out even before we got into the bad pick phase. Super interesting coming in from Whale. On the other side, Frank, they are being pinched here by support. Want to lead that last pick towards the top lane. Are just going to pick in your old faithful in the Nautilus. And now it's time for MFT to show their cards, both in the top and in their AD carry.
Yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Sejuani come out again, coming in from Taco. A low-range composition, you just kind of want to wombo on into the side of Frank Esports, and you know that Kurt, he doesn't exactly have the counter picks to necessarily excel on, right? Yes, he could lock in something like a Fiora, and maybe he'll outscale you, but you know in the lane phase, he isn't going to gap you by 40 CS. So you have a lot of leeway when it comes to just what you want to blind pick here for the side of MFT.
Just seems like even more lockdown is probably preferred here for MFT. Oh, they will go for lockdown, but not the tank option. Oh, Taco trying to show off here. They're going with the Camille. And, you know, talking about the top lane, this is the one point on the map that actually, for MFT, is statistically better than the opposition. Taco has a lot better laning stats compared to Kurt. And Kurt also just doesn't have that much of a champion pool, to be absolutely honest. He is going to go for the Gnar pick, which is it's not exactly a counter pick. I think it's a safe pick.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be more on the safe end, but unfortunately, while Gnar, I think, makes a lot of sense when you're blind picking it, it certainly doesn't make a ton of sense when you are trying to counter pick here against the Camille already showing. I would have much preferred something like the Gragas in this instance here, just to give you a little bit more stability when it comes to this team fighting phase. Kurt on the Gnar hasn't exactly shown that he's been exceptionally clean on pick. Yes, there's times where he kind of he does find those big Gnar ultimates, but the lane phase has to always come into question.
Definitely, and Mini Gnar does not help you disengage with this composition. So, looking down the draft, I'm sensing a much clearer focus coming in from MFT. It's very powerful in their 5v5. It's very clear how they just want to run in and engage. But what are you getting here from Frank? I feel like Frank's a bit of an enigma for me.
Yeah, it feels like if you look at all these Frank Esports champions, it's a lot more of just taking the heads up 1v1 duels, right? Aphelios wants to just take the heads up duel. The Ahri wants to take a heads up duel. Lee Sin, Gnar as well. Unfortunately, with Factory Kurt, I don't think that's going to happen. But for Frank Esports, I think it's a lot about this early game and being able to try and snowball into the mid game. But unfortunately, like MFT, this Wombo power coming in from their 5-man squad is really, really scary.
It's just, you click all of your ultimate buttons and someone is going to die on the side of Frank Esports. We're heading into the Rift. Just another reminder, today we are playing an elimination match. No more second chances. You have to live and move on or you go home. So we are going to hit the match between Frank Esports and Meta Falcon Team. So we have Frank with a 5-man stack right off the board, going for a potential invade. Looks like it. As we do have Nautilus coming across.
This is great.
from blindside vision. Wen's gonna get caught out, but he gets the passive, flashes away right off the start of things, and that's Frank Esports with a great vision sneak.
Yeah, really, really well played coming in from Frank Esports on that play, but it also means MFT will be able to get that red buff warded. And Pretender not opting to lob a Q into the bush just to check things out. Actually, it looks like they kind of plan to circle on around, so if 665 had stayed in that bush, potentially would have been caught out and picked off, but they did have a ward, so not going to get bamboozled there.
Both of the teams do have a ward on the respective red buffs, so they should know where these starts are going to happen. And Taco, very interestingly, actually going for some harass, but he will face a potential sandwich right here. Kurt is not going to win this trade and is actually forced to take the hop level 1.
Very safe choice there.
Red now walking into a lot of trouble right there. Not a favorable trade. He goes up to half HP.
Yeah, and this is also PTA on this Affilio, so he was able to get the 3-hit proc there, and that's why you have that extra burst of damage come down onto Leona, and Leona also opting for the Glacial Augment. So it means that you have a lot more catch potential, but when it comes to trading before level 3, you are very, very squishy.
Yeah, we have seen double Glacial. Usually means that both junglers are going to be arriving here as well. It's a lot more of a snowbally lane. And now we have Holo coming into the bottom side. Both teams should know about the jungle pathing, but it's just about how they react to it, as we have MFT and Whale going over there and just dropping a ward.
Yeah, and really nice lane position down in that bot side for the side of Frank Esports now. 665, he's known to make an early visit over to Wen's lane quite often, at the very least to reset the wave and allow Wen to get a back off, or if the opportunity presents itself, to try and burn the flash on the enemy mid laner. Pretender is aware of that and ends up being able to just walk away.
Yeah, really nicely done. Kind of a telegraphed play from Wen, as he does walk up with the fear passive there, and Pretender instantly knows that he should be walking towards the other side. 3-3 versus 2-2 gank, very classical gank right here, but can 665 actually find the Spectral Maw? He is going to go into Camouflage, does find Eminem, burns his cleanse.
Holo's on the way.
Doesn't look like there is kill potential in this one. MFT will just back out. In the meantime, Holo does find the Scuttle, and Wen might be in a bit of trouble here. He's definitely in one-shot execution range, but Holo just going to assist with the wave clear, not going for the kill whatsoever. And we do have Wen just staying safe right here. A good attempt from both sides. We do have a bit of a CS lead on the side of Whale, but Frank Esports, they should be okay with that one as well.
Yeah, and more importantly, like, that's going to be double Scuttle for Holo. Already level 4, he's going to be very close to level 5, or at least halfway there. And if you compare the CS gap already in the jungle, 665 trying to make things happen very early on, and then as a result, he's given up multiple camps, or at the very least, both of these Scuttle Craps, right? So that's a pretty large gap already in the junglers, and that's resulted in a pickaxe buy.
Ooh, this buy for Lee Sin is absolutely bonkers here. We will see 665 still staying on the map, helping Taco push this one in.
He's still level 3.
At 4 minutes, not exactly what you want to see. He does have that Krug camp. Let's see if the gank for Holo will work out here. K2 looking for the angle. Watch out for the dredge line. Let's see if Renhao accidentally goes a little bit too far. The angle's definitely present. Can he actually turn this dredge line over? Ooh, the wave's not going to give him the opportunity here, as it does come in. Holo's also taking a lot of time here, so at least this will give 665 some time to actually catch up. There goes K2. He does actually find the Jinx in the end. Instant ignite into the Gravitum. The extra auto attack, the double flash in, not able to find the kill. Well, we'll survive that one.
Decent attempt coming in from Frank Esports, but unfortunately, by the time they were able to land a hook, Whale and Renhao just a little bit too far away from the rest of FAK Esports. So Whale able to get out, but he does have to burn both summoners, and it was a clutch block from Renhao at the end to make sure Hollow didn't land the Q onto the Jinx. That ends up saving Whale in that instance. And I mean, while he does lose a pretty sizable wave there, he's still even in CS.
Taco gonna take some punishment from a Kurt that just turned into Meganar, still holding on to the ultimate.
Oh, wow.
Nearly one-shots him. Taco
Wow.
does have to run away right here. He does land the
Wow.
W, but it will be a solo kill. Kurt finds the solo versus Taco, something we did not expect of this matchup.
Wow, okay. Kurt finding the 1v1 there was 100% unexpected. For sure, I thought Taco wins the lane more often than not, and even then also in very dominating fashion. But that certainly shifts the calculus quite a bit, right? If Gnar does find the 1v1, even against that Sheen purchase, you already have steel cap boots. It also is tier 2 boots. The amount of kiteability offered by the Gnar now is going to be pretty strong, and all of a sudden, there's a lot more options available for the side of FAK Esports in how they want to play the game.
Yeah, such an incredibly clean solo kill as well. This is always the thing about Camille trading is you can't afford to get caught out in the middle of the lane. No opportunity to use hookshot right there, and he just gets run over by Kurt on that item buy. I think we do have to delve into some of those other win conditions that you just mentioned. You know, we said that FAK Esports was they're definitely aiming for more of like a solo, just kind of will beat you on each individual point type of strategy. Now with Kurt with a sizable lead here, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, if Hollow does set up for the dive here, it could be a bit risky. But if they are able to find the kill, even trading one kill back, this would be a very, very good result. But Meganar about to time out. That's going to leave them too small of a window to actually be able to find that kill. And they'll instead turn their attention towards this Rift Herald. And so far, like, besides this bottom lane, CS-wise, everything is kind of going to as expected. The only issue has been their usual strong point on the map with M on this Aphelios and just hard slamming the lane. That hasn't really come to fruition. He's down 10 CS, which is not the typical M lane phase.
It does seem like MFT are playing extra attention over towards M. They know he's the main carry, 30% of the team's damage. If you can shut that down, that's pretty much Frank's late game expectations, as we do see a Herald for blue buff trade starting out here. Definitely still a little bit more favorable. Oh, 665 finally picks up the blue buff. I thought he was about to lose that one, but he does take it in the very end, so at least they get a little bit something back. In the meantime, we do have Holo with the Herald here. I do want to ask you where you expect this one to get dropped.
Most likely bot lane. I mean, like, when it comes to their solo laners, they typically play with not a whole lot of jungle attention, and they don't get a lot of gold invested.
Holo does show himself. K2 flashes in. The Moonlight Vigil actually doesn't land, but the Dragon's Rage will do the job. A two-man knockup into another kill in the bottom side, and FAK Esports wipe away that deficit in bot.
And FAK Esports, once again, they managed to brute force it in that bottom lane. Now, of course, with the Herald available, they're actually going to move towards the mid lane. It is actually going to be
Renhao looking for a return kill, goes straight onto M. They find him. The stun doesn't go down just yet, but they will finish off the kill, which means the Herald drop probably not going to happen just yet. 665 does not get the kill, actually, excuse me. It is Renhao taking down the Aphelios.
But at the same time, it is going to be the Aphelios still going down, and now Whale is able to return to this lane. And while a kill did go into the hands of M, the lane position isn't that bad for this Jinx pick still, and she is also going to be able to continue to generate that CS lead. So all in all, the gold is pretty even still in this AD carry matchup.
A really good combo from the side of MFT. I was a little bit surprised that Eminem wasn't able to use his flash at all in that one. He did have it, but it seems like the stun lock from Ren Hao and 665 made short work of the Aphelios right there. And we do have MFT winning out on their bottom lane, which is not typically the lane that they go for, I would say. Taking a look at the gold difference here. Small lead for Frank.
And, I mean, for the most part, Whale has done very well in the bot lane when it comes to just kind of laning. A lot of times when he ends up falling behind, it's because he's forced in a position where his support needs to go bail out when in that mid lane matchup. That hasn't been an issue so far in this game, so Whale's been able to play the game, play bot lane, and he's been very efficient in doing so.
K2 waiting over the wall, but he's not going to get vision of Whale. Now he finds it just yet. It's going to go Hex Flash directly over into the ultimate. There's a 3-man Leona ultimate down to help things out, but Frank Esports are picking up the kills left and right. Already 2 down, and what a great ambush by K2 and Frank Esports. They get to the point first. Nar was down here early. He also just dropped the Herald kind of haphazardly there. I think that one might have been a mistake, but they will pick up this Hex Drake nonetheless.
Yeah, actually the Herald about to time out there in that instance. Only had probably around 20 seconds left. So forced to throw that down earlier, and what a great play coming in from K2. Comes over the wall with that Hex Splash, knowing that the rotation is just going to be there from everyone on the side of Frank Esports. They pull Kurt down for this play, and you can see, like, on the mini-map in that instance, Taco, he had just entered that bot side jungle when the fight just finished. So the rotations coming in from the solo laners on the side of MFT just that much slower, and that has been one of the big points of Frank Esports. What they've been really good at is just Kurt, he's always willing to rotate 30 seconds early. If it means sacking 2 waves, he'll do it. But when it comes to playing for his team, he's always there.
It definitely has been the case right here. We've seen that sort of move also go sideways sometimes, but in this instance, definitely working out. I feel like Kurt is definitely much more of a team fight centric top laner than a split pusher that we've seen been kind of the more popular trend in Season 12 right here. MFT will come back into the bottom side, and so far that mid-game combo that we've been hyping up in the draft hasn't come to fruition just yet. The Hextech Ultimatum, the Shadow Surge, not happening just yet. The Pretender flying in onto when will find the charm. 665 there to escort though.
Yeah, 665 in the perfect place there in that moment. Prevents his mid laner from going down, but still really well executed coming in from Frank Esports. And this is kind of the point where Frank Esports do sometimes struggle though. They get themselves a 3k gold lead, and then the next 5 minutes, it just holds that 3k gold. So we need to see more come out from Frank Esports. It's not like we have a third dragon about to come into their hands, so they need to be a little bit more proactive in trying to generate more leads, especially with the composition that they do have, which you would still say would get outscaled later on in the game.
I definitely agree with that one. You really need to get a little bit more kills on that Ahri, make sure everything can go smoothly. MFT still have with a very strong wombo combo teamfight comp, so you know those comps typically not as affected by gold deficits. We are just going to see a trade for Herald for the top lane, for the bottom lane, excuse me, coming in from MFT. They will look to get an extra turret on the top side as well. 665 just getting into position. Let's see if he drops the Herald directly, or will he wait on this one? The rotation is coming in from Frank, and looks like that window has closed. Just a straight up 3v3 in the top side. And actually Frank a little bit slower on this rotation here. Let's see what they are going to do. Once again, this is kind of detrimental to Kurt, as he doesn't really get to do much here.
Yeah, Kurt really wants to find that Mega Gnar. Big Mega Gnar ultimate. If he is able to find just like 2 or even the 3-man ult, that would be absolutely massive to just try and snowball the game, but they will just rotate him down bot lane. And at the very least, FAK Esports, they are sort of able to mitigate the possibility of that Rift Herald happening. And now it's about controlling this top half of the map, at least for the time being. Try and break down that next tier 1 tower, whether it's in the mid lane or in this top lane.
Let's see how they go about it. I will say for MetaFalcon team, their team's biggest weakness to me is just their unfamiliarity with pro level macro. I feel like their mid game macro has been probably one of the weaker teams in the PCS for sure. They are essentially a collegiate team, and they do make a lot of lane allocation mistakes that we've seen in the past. So hopefully that will not be the case this game, and it does seem like they will not be playing too overly aggressive without vision right here, keeping both side lanes safe. We are going to be heading into the next Drake, and I have to ask you, who really holds the edge in this one, and what do you expect to see out of the setups?
I mean, when it comes to the damage potential, you do have to favor the side of FAK Esports with the Mega Gnar at this point in the game, right? The Camille's not quite online.
Taco just gets taken through mid-air, drops down to 300 HP, and has to flash out. He might just be dead already before the fight even starts. Bit of a oopsies right there. MFT will drop the Herald, but yeah, that was
charge.
A little bit unexpected. I think it came out of nowhere. Really good aim coming in from K2.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be much of a fight now for this next dragon, so it should just be the Inferno going into the hands of FAK Esports, although MFT, they are still kind of sniffing around here, which might be a little bit detrimental here if they overstay their welcome, and FAK Esports just turns onto him. K2 playing very, very well so far, and might have another opportunity to find a hook.
Gravitum goes down. They do catch out Rednow, forces the flash. 665 goes forward, but Kurt has his sights on him. He's looking for the potential to bring him back into the team. Holo is going to go forward just to put a little bit of damage. He doesn't have the Dragon's Rage. He's just fronting, but the front works.
Yeah, and I mean, FAK Esports, they've been in pretty good control of this game. When we talk about how they play out the game, it feels very PSG-esque because they'll get these leads and they kind of just sit on them for a little bit. And then you get to that 21, 22 minute mark, then they find that first big fight, and then it turns into something like a Baron or the possibility of the Dragon Soul. And that's how they kind of try and snowball and end the game off of that point. But as it stands now, Dragon Soul isn't going to be a big issue here, and Baron is not necessarily going to be something that they can just kind of bait around too hard at the moment, because of still the reset potential coming in from a Viego Jinx composition.
Yeah, they do have to be very careful, and this is something that I find kind of interesting about this game. We've talked up MFT having the much easier to execute teamfight combo, the, in our eyes, stronger teamfight combo, but FAK has just been decimating them in terms of playing around objectives. Both of these major fights have been FAK just popping out, getting a catch right off the start, and I'm not sure what MFT need to do here. They have the tools, but how do they bring those tools into an actual fist? You know, it just seems to be they're in this kind of a slap fight when they should be trying to aim for a punch.
Yeah, that's always a bit of a question for MFT, and just how do they find that team fight before the other side is able to just kind of get all their resources together. And that's been a big issue for MFT. You saw yesterday in their series against CFO, it was Taco. Yes, when he has the teleport, he's typically there at the right time, but when almost always seems to be 5-10 seconds late to the play, so he needs to be on top of his rotational game for MFT to have a chance, because on this Vex, this is a majority of their upfront damage to get these resets for your Jinx, for your Viega.
We still haven't seen that Vex use the Shadow Surge in a team fight at all. It's just been picks on picks for Frank Esports, and I have to say the laning phase for MFT wasn't even that bad. The bot lane was winning, so I'm very surprised at this mid-game result. Now we have a potential catch right on top of Kurt. Hextech ultimatum gonna go down, but they can't finish him before he goes into the Mega Gnar. They finally get the kill into the resets. Let's see if they can get more. K2 in a bad position. Shadow Surge won't land though, as Renhouse stays alive somehow. MFT gonna chase forward. We finally get the passive. Eminem has to burn both of his summoners, and that is MFT roaring back into a good teamfight win.
Yeah, and it comes off the back of Taco and 665 being able to find Kurt early on and be able to almost get him for free there. It does still end up getting traded 1-for-1, but they end up winning out when it comes to a lot of the map control at the moment, but unfortunately unable to get more out of that fight, as it feels like it's gonna go reset, and then everyone's still gonna be up and available for this next dragon, but more importantly, there's a lot of missing summoner spells for the side of MFT.
Small correction, it was just a 1-for-0 there for Meta Falcon team. Red House somehow survived at the very end. But you hit the nail on the head.
665 did go down though.
Oh, 665. Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. 665 did overchase a little bit right there. All eyes really on Eminem going into this one. A lot of pieces still available. Shadow Surge is up. Leona ultimate is up. Let's see if MFT can finally fight a good objective fight. We are going in. Holo trying to find the back line.
Oh,
Whale is going to go down towards Pretender. Another catch right before the Drake. And how is Frank keep on getting this over and over again? MFT are just never grouped for these team fights. Frank just going to head straight for the Baron.
I don't know what just came across my screen. I just saw a giant Jinx rocket come down. But, more fighting.
That's going to be an easy pickup kill for Frank Esports. They have the vision control, they find the blind spot, and they punish Frank. Once they punish MFT once again for just having a very haphazard approach to these objectives.
Yeah, and it's just the rotations. Like, once again, Pretender, he shows up into that mid lane, and for the side of MFT, like, they aren't able to pull their soul laners around fast enough. The one fight that they found, it was because their soul laners were there first. Like, we're gonna see the replay on how they were able to find the pick. It's Taco being there, it's Wen being there, and when you just have more members, it makes these fights a whole lot easier to execute. But then, right after that success, or somewhat of a success, it looked good at the start. MFT, they just get caught out in no man's land. They're the ones that get punished because their soul laners just don't rotate.
Yeah, that has been a very consistent issue this game, and I'm a little bit disappointed. We still, like, we were guaranteed MFT, this Wombo combo, you know, was supposed to be a big meal, a massive feast, and so far we've only seen appetizers. Like, they have not been able to pull this composition together whatsoever, and it just does feel like the difference in levels of fundamentals. I don't think Frank Esports is doing anything particularly fancy. They're just saying, okay, we'll show up a little bit earlier on these objectives, and we'll pick you out when you come around.
Yep.
Vision blind spots. It's
yeah, it's just a better understanding of, like, the timers. And unfortunately for MFT, they're just you know, 10-15 seconds behind on every single play. Like, the thought's there, but the execution just way too far behind. And now Frank Esports, they have this Baron buff. Yes, they did drop the Dragon, which Taco was able, it was either Taco or 665 was able to sneak away, which is very important because it delays Dragon Soul at the very least. But Frank Esports should be able to really just almost nearly put this game to rest at this point, because The gold lead is just going to balloon. It should be very close to 10k by the end of this Baron buff.
And we do have Pretender being super fed here as well. Has not died this game just yet. Already sitting on 4 kills. If he lands a charm, that is going to be a kill. So Frank Esports, they're not going to give up this opportunity. They're going to continue to push. MFT for them, they finally have all 5 people grouped. It's not in front of an objective, but they do have all members here. So maybe we can see the fight going on. Death Charge gonna go down. We have a massive 3-man ultimate into the back line. Kurt finds the engage. Holo gonna fly in. Pretender gets up a kill. But Will might be chasing this down. He's getting excited. Reset City going in. 665 finds one. He gets another. Will is still chasing it out to Eminem. He does find the 80 carry trade. Now it's only the jungler versus the mid laner who will win out. Pretender, last man standing out of 10 people in the bottom lane.
That was the most gladiator fight I've seen of all time, and Pretender is the one left standing. It does mean that they won't be able to finish out the game because of the fact that it's only the Ahri left, but as we get to see the replay, it all starts out with being able to find the catch onto Taco and resulting in the multi-man Gnar. Kurt on the Gnar has been very impressive in this first game so far, but we'll get that first reset, and this is what makes this composition so scary, right? Because you get the first reset, all of a sudden Jinx gets excited, you get the ult resets coming in for Viego, and you also get the ult reset coming in for the Vex. So a lot of damage potential after that first kill goes down for the side of MFT, and that time they were able to capitalize on Holo overextending.
I'm so surprised at the result of that team fight because Meta Falcon team were down 7,000 gold before going into that one. I didn't expect it to be close whatsoever. I thought Frank would pretty much just like roll their faces on the keyboard and just decimate them.
Yes.
It just kind of shows you the power of Meta Falcon team's composition and the reset potential. Like you were mentioning, how should Frank play this a little bit more carefully, as I think they were pretty surprised by that result as well.
Yeah, I definitely think they were really shocked by how that fight turned out, and now things are interestingly going to, while it is a near 10k gold lead, but what we've seen from that last fight and the fact that Jinx is now has a 3rd completed item, you would certainly favor her 3 items against the
Here comes the engage here. Pretender not going to get locked down. It's K2 that's the target, but a lot of damage going through. Oh my god, that's the Aphelios once again.
200 years
onto 4 members of the team. You forgot about Eminem. All focus was on K2, but Eminem was there to pick up the pieces. Will the real Eminem please stand up right here as they put the finishing touches? Maybe, as well as still cutting out. He's looking for the damage, but he won't find it. Kurt chain locks him down. We'll get the kill. Eminem face taking the tower though. Eminem, what are you? Wait a minute, Eminem's dead. It's still gonna be 3 versus none though. So they still have a chance to just take this one down.
They still win the game.
Coming in. Eminem still with the right call for sure. Congratulations to Frank Esports. The last 2 team fights had a lot of excitement for us, but it looked like they should be winning this one. The charm lands onto 665 from Pretender. Do they want this extra kill before putting the finishing touches? They will get it. And Frank Esports with the first blood being drawn here.
That was a wild ending, Clement. It was a lot of fun towards the end of the game. It felt like Frank Esports were just in complete control, and we were going to have a very PSG-esque sort of game where they just slowly choke out the side of MFT. But MFT, they finally end up bearing their fangs. Hey, you don't need to worry about rotational gameplay coming in from your solo laners if you're stuck in your base. So everyone's just kind of stuck home, you know? So that helped out just a little bit, and they were able to find that one big fight, but unfortunately the gold lead was just too much at the end, and Frank Esports just kind of slammed them over the heads with the wallet.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. The last team fight was, you could tell that the idea was there. All they needed was the reset, but they couldn't even kill K2. K2 actually just stood alive, and then Eminem was like, oh, you guys are all grouped up here. Well, I guess it's a barbecue. Just launches the Moonlight Vigil, and they all just, and they burn down, and everyone's running. The entire house is on flames. What a very exciting match to watch right here. I think, talking about this one holistically, I think both of us actually favored the MFT draft, but Frank came out with far better execution.
Yeah, and I think the key point was like, this Camille should get ahead if we factor in the players themselves, right? But it was Kurt that actually stepped up, and he performed in the lane phase, and that really changed the expectations quite a bit, because all of a sudden you have to deal with this Mega Gnar that is actually a threat, whereas a lot of times when you think about Kurt as a player, at least across the spring split, it's been, well, he's going to show up, but he's really just a bundle of fake HP. You could easily burst him out, even in Mega Gnar, and he's not going to be effective. But that wasn't the case this time around. So big credit goes out to Kurt in showing up at the start of this series, which changes a lot of how you think about these MFT drafts going into next game.
Yeah, I do want to ask about the draft, because for MFT, I don't think the draft actually mattered that much this game, to be perfectly honest. It was much more about just fundamentals.
Executions.
Exactly. How would MFT try to close that gap? If they could do it through the draft, is there some sort of a draft that would allow them to kind of maybe group up faster or not be picked up so easily? Do you think that's a possibility, or is it the coaches
Frank
just have to hammer
Esports could just give over the Galio? That would remedy a lot of their problems, right? Because if you get caught out, you just Hero's Entrance in.
That's true. And I feel like that's a really good point on why nobody gives Galio over to Wen. I think it's a valid point, but I don't expect that to happen whatsoever. I mean,
yeah. Unfortunately, like, I think the side of Frank Esports played the draft very well, right? You take away the Galio, you also take away the MF, like the possibility of a huge wombo sort of fight happening. This really gets taken off the table very quickly when you remove the MF, because the rotations haven't been an issue for the bottom lane duo. It's been about the mid and the top lane that don't always show up at the right time. As we get to see the game summary, it was a 30-minute game, but it didn't feel like MFT had a lot of say in this game, because it was just all red.
Yeah, they didn't win a single team fight until much later into the game, that small blip around 27 minutes, and that was basically the last hurrah for them. I think the draft, they could probably go with the same stuff right here and just try to execute it better. Again, MFT, their story coming into this is a bunch of collegiate kids that came over from the LSC directly into pro. Even though the players were on very much different levels, they decided to stick together and try to be a pro team with the inbuilt synergy. Unfortunately, this time around, didn't work out, and K2 well-deservedly gets the MVP. Probably one of his better performances, I would say, throughout the entire split. All of his engages were on point, and he was the one mastering a lot of those pickups that we saw around objectives.
Yeah, and this is just the power of Nautilus, right? When you are able to snowball with that Glacial Augment, each and every pick you get is just more and more devastating, because they just have no way of getting out of that engage with the extra Glacial Augment. And then the Nautilus gets tankier and tankier because he's able to get kill participation. So it becomes even more and more difficult to burst out, even though you want to turn your attention onto this champion because he doesn't have Aftershock. And because he's a support, unfortunately, just way too tanky with his after snowballing so hard.
Yeah, he was building even Shroud and still staying alive despite being focused down by 4 members coming in from Meta Falcon team. They could not take they couldn't keep the Nautilus down, as the saying goes for him. And that will be game 1 over to Frank Esports in our elimination match. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.